formulation stage is a stage in producing language when our brain try to search the word according to our conceptualization stage before about the abstract idea about what we have to speak, and then we're choosing the appropriate word suitable for the concept, and then the sentence structures. After we already have the word, we make into a sentences or a phrase, and then we try to make a good sentence structures. That is a formulation stage. This is in line with Alauddin 2021, who said that a formulation stage is a second stage in producing a language, refers to the activity of selecting appropriate word and then sentence structures combined to make a meaningful speech. And syntactical knowledge in formulation stage is knowledge of lemma, knowledge of lexeme, and grammatical. Yes, those three things. Why I say that? Because syntactical knowledge, syntactical itself, if we see in linguistics, syntactical knowledge is about the knowledge of word structures, right? So if we see in psycholinguistic, syntactical knowledge refers to the knowledge of lemma, lexeme, and grammatical. This is in line to Mr. Alauddin 2021, who said that syntactical knowledge is speakers' skills to use language properties, namely the lexical and grammatical properties. Alright, about the relationship between formulation stage and syntactical knowledge is syntactical knowledge is the knowledge of putting like lemmas, lexeme, and grammatical knowledge, and that we need in formulation stage. As I said before, formulation stage is a stage in language productions when we try to have some word according to concept, and then we choose the best word suitable for the concept, and then we make those word in a meaningful speech. We use the structures, function structures, and positional structures. So, of course, they have relations, right? This is in line to Alauddin 2021, who said that formulation stage will effectively when the speaker have the knowledge of lemma, lexeme, and grammatical encoding. So, of course, they have a big relationship because syntactical knowledge is the knowledge of those three things, and formulation stage is a stage when we do those three things, namely the collecting the lemma, choose the appropriate word, or in this case, namely lexeme, and make good sentences according to grammatical sentence. What I know about those 5 things is lemma is the alternative word according to the concept in producing in producing a language. Example, like when we want to say mengandung, we have the word in English, namely pregnant and contain. And then those two words is called lemma. And then the next is about lexeme. Lexeme is the chosen word. The chosen word. After we have lemma, and then we choose one word from the lemma. That is the lexemes. So lexeme is the chosen word of the lemmas. And the next word is something that we pronounce it. I mean, after we have lemmas and then we choose and we articulated it, it's the word. And then next is about vocabulary. Vocabulary is a word that we study, that we learn. We learn about the pronunciations, we learn to the concept of using that word. We learn about the alternative meaning of the word. That's vocabulary. Okay, so vocabulary is the word is the study of word. And then the next is entry. Entry is word in our dictionary. Word in dictionary, that's called entry. So the difference is lemma and lexeme is in our brain, and lemma is alternative word, lexeme is the chosen word, and then word is what we articulated it, or what we say, it's word. And vocabulary is the word that we study about the pronunciations, about the concept and alternative meanings. And then entry is the word in dictionary. Alright, what I know about grammatical encoding. Grammatical encoding is one of the processes in formulation step. As I said before, after we already have the lexemes, we make into a sentences, right? When we make into sentences, of course we need grammar. We need grammar there to make meaningful sentences, right? And to make good or meaningful sentences, we need two process of grammar, namely the functional grammar and positional. Two kinds of structures, two kinds of grammar, namely, or two kinds of processing in grammatical encoding, namely the positional processing and functional processing. Functional processing is the process of convey a role of things that we want to speak. Example, when we want to say I read a book, right? Example, if you want to say I read a book, we have to know the role of those things in the sentence. The first one is I. The role of I is the subject, and then read as a verb or predicate, and a book is the object. So before we make sentences, we have to know about the role of those words in our sentences. And the next about positional processing, or in grammar it's positional structures. It is about the positions of those words. We take the same example. I read a book, right? I read a book. We have to make in good positions. Subject is the first. After subject, we putting the verb or the predicate, and then we putting the object. it is if we want to make a simple present sentences. I read a book, and if we want to make passive sentences, we also need to know about the positional processing. So the other words, to expressing positional sentences is like it seems with 16 kind of sentences. We make a good positions, or we make a good sentences with the word and word functions who in the good positions. Even we want to make simple present tenses, or we want to make a past present, past continuous, simple continuous, and so on. We have to know the position of each word. This is in line with Kaharudian 2021, who said that grammatical encoding is the process to creating good sentences by using grammatical knowledge to express the messages in the mind. And according to Gerard 1986, says that grammatical encoding have two processes, namely functional processing and positional processing. And the example of functional processing is we processing the word, this word into a good role, and then functional processing is about the role of this word, and positional processing is the positions of this word in the sentences. What I know about articulation stage and phonological knowledge. Articulation stage, what I understand about articulation stage. Articulation stage is the last stage in language production. Why I say last stage? Because this stage is after conceptualization stage and the formulation stage. As we know, in production language we have three stages, namely conceptualization stage, formulation stage, and the last, articulation stage. And articulation stage itself is when we want to articulate it, a word or a sentences that we already have before in conceptualization and formulation stage. And in articulation stage, of course, we use the appropriate pronunciations and the appropriate place to articulate some word. As we know, a word have their own things to use in pronouncing it, like the difference between each, the kind of mouth. Like we use like that, and this is in line with Mr. Garudian 2021, who said that articulation stage is the final stage. I said the last stage, and Mr. Garudian said the final stage is same, right? The final stage in processing and producing a language that refers to the act of pronouncing sentences with a clear and effective speech, right? So articulation stage, we need to know the pronunciation of this word in our sentences. And then phonological knowledge. Phonological knowledge is a knowledge about the system of sound, the symbol of sound and the system of sound, and then where we use bend of mouth to pronounce that word. Like we use we use two lips, like that, and then n like that. We study in phonetics. Phonetics is phonological knowledge, and this is according to linguistic. So linguistic perceptions about phonetics. As we know, in linguistic we study of 5 things, namely the phonetics, that's the first, and then the morphology, syntax, semantic, and pragmatic. In linguistic, phonetics is the knowledge of the study of system and symbol and the place to articulate or to pronounce the word. According to me, the relationship between those two things is, as we know, articulation stage is the stage when we want to pronouncing the sentences, the word. Before we pronouncing of a word or a sentences, of course we need to know the knowledge. We need to know the knowledge about the pronunciation, about the sound of the word, and where we use mouth element to articulate the words. And the knowledge of those things is phonological knowledge. So of course they have a big relations. And the relationship between phonological knowledge and articulation stage, as I said before, is in line with Mr. Karud in 2021, who said that articulating sentences in articulation stage to make such a quality, we need phonological knowledge. What I understand about phonological rules is the rules in phonetics that allow us to use the appropriate sound of some word that we want to convey. Right, like from the sounds of the lexemes and the way we articulated it is for phonological rules. And the characteristic of phonological rules is intuitive, and then on third, language specificity and language productivity. Why I say on third? Because the pronouns of the word, it's not only we study in phonetics. Some sound of the word maybe we already know after we just hear and we use it in our own life. That's unthought or unconscious. And then language specificity is the pronouns. What I know about language specificity is the pronouns of some words is specific, it's unique in the language. Like in American, they have their own uniques to pronounce some word, and it's different with British, Australian, and so on. And then language productivity is the general rules in language. Like when we want to say see drinks, of course we put the S sound there, right? Like drinks is different between I drink and see drinks. We put the S sound there. It's in language productivity. And this is according to what I understand about these, but phonological rules and its characteristic. It is according to ISB 2009, who said phonological rules is phonological knowledge that allows us to pronounce the word in good pronunciations, and its characteristic have 4, namely intuitive, unconscious or unthought, and language specificity and language productivity. what I know about phonological encoding, phonological encoding is the process of we put the sound of some word, then we articulated it. It's phonological encoding. Like we want to say, example of the lexeme is hijab. We already have the word hijab in our brain, and then we learn to pronounce the hijab. It's Hejib, and then hijab, like that. It is phonological encoding. And then this is according to UIN 2013, who said that phonological encoding is the process of giving sound of the form of the word or our abstract ideas. Okay, the last questions as a whole. What I know about the language productions. Okay, after I study about language productions, I can conclude that language production is the process to producing a language that occurred in our mind and then the last in our mouth and articulated it, right? And language production have 3 steps, namely the conceptualization stage and formulation stage and the last articulation stage. Conceptualization stage is the stage when we think about the abstract idea that we want to convey, like the theme or the topics. And then formulation stage, that the stage when we think about the lemma and then we choose the appropriate word according to the topic or the concept that we already have in conceptualization stage. It is namely a chosen word, namely lexeme, and then we try to make in a good sentences according to or appropriate with the functional processing or functional structures and positional processing or positional structures. And after we already have those things, we go to the final stage, namely the articulation stage. The articulation stage is the stage when we trying to pronouncing the sentences that we already have in conceptualization stage and then formulation stage, and we already have in our mind the theme, the word, good structures, and then good pronunciations, and we articulated it. That is in articulation stage. So after learn about those things in language productions, I also can conclude that, also understand that in language productions, and we have 3 kinds of knowledge also, namely the semantical knowledge in conceptualization stage, and then syntactical knowledge in formulation stage, and the last is phonological knowledge in articulation stage. Why for us semantical knowledge in formulation in conceptualization stage? Because the reason I already explained in the last video about this video. And then syntactical knowledge in formulation stage, I already explained from in the last number in this video. And the phonological knowledge in articulation stage also I already explained it. And that's what I can conclude in language production. And this is what is I conclude what is I understand is also in line with level of 1989, who says that language production have 3 steps, namely conceptualization step, formulation step, and articulation stage. And then according to Chomsky, we need semantical knowledge and conceptualization stage, syntactical knowledge and formulation stage, and the last is phonological knowledge and articulation stage.